So the first session of the afternoon, I think, will both inspire you and perhaps even surprise you. It's entitled, "Is the VC World Challenging Environment for Women, or a Stepping Stone to Other Exciting Opportunities?" Well, I'd like to welcome to the stage the moderator of the session, Emilie Benayad, who's the operating partner and DE&I ambassador at Serena, and also the speakers who are going to take part in this session. Gesa Miczaicka from, please come here. Yep. Gesa Miczaicka from Auxxo Female Catalyst Fund, Tatiana Jama from the SISTA Fund, and also Magda Olczak-Nowicka from DOV.VC. And just before I hand over to you, please do have a seat, Emilie. Yes, of course, wherever you like. I'm going to sit somewhere else, yeah. Just before I start, you did some research, Emilie, yourself, which might surprise people in the audience because it had some positive results.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. I'm Emilie Benayad, partner at Serena, a French VC. I'm very happy to be here and very honored to moderate this great panel. I suggest if you have some question about the study, we can go back to that at the end of the session. But just to tease, indeed, it was showing another angle of the VC industry and showing that some female leaving the VC, their current VC, were doing it to go to another VC or to go to a very close ecosystem, which is being a founder themselves or being a C-level at a startup. So it was quite encouraging, and quite giving another angle from what we heard quite a lot, saying that it was a hostile environment. But I think that it is basically the topic of today, and we will have several perspectives here from the three of you. We have today Tatiana Jama.
Hello, hello. No, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Hello.
Tatiana, you are a serial entrepreneur. You've created SISTA and SISTA Fund. Thanks for being here. Can you say a small word, brief word about your background and why you're passionate and you've dedicated a lot of time to this topic of gender equity?
Of course. So why? That's a very good question. I need a few days to answer. So I guess that I was a lawyer and I turned entrepreneur, and I spent my 14 first years as an entrepreneur being absolutely convinced that entrepreneurship was the best thing ever, typically for women and underrepresented, because it was next to the statu quo. And when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have all these glass crazy ceilings on top of you. You start as a boss, and that changes everything. So I was 23, and instead of having all these glass ceilings that I had to, break, and when you break the glass ceiling, it's possible, but it hurts a lot. We never talk about it. But I think that, again, the few women who had to do that in order for us to be here had a lot of courage, but had a lot of was also very difficult. So in the entrepreneur world, again, I started very early, and you're talking equally to people who are running, 100,000 people. I remember I was talking to Charles Pépi of the SNCF, which is a French company, and he had a few hundred thousands of employees, and I had only one, but we were kind of talking equally for equally. So starting as an entrepreneur changes really everything, because you start as a boss and you don't see the world in the same way. So for a long time, I launched 3 companies, raised funds, sold my first company to Amazon, my second to a media group, and I really was, living the El Dorado of entrepreneurship. And the French government in 2018 asked me to focus on female entrepreneurship and was asking what was the problem, because there was very few women that were raising funds. And I tried to understand the problem, and I hadn't really, I know it's absurd, but I hadn't really like thought about it because I was, focused on my entrepreneurial journey. And by counting women, in order for women to count, I realized that there was only 2% of the venture money within the last 10 years that had gone to women entrepreneurs. And it was really a shock. The 2% was kind of the beginning of what we build with SISTA and SISTA Fund. So SISTA is a non-profit organization that is working on closing the funding gap. And we have a community of entrepreneurs, a community of investors, and a community around data. Data is very important. And next to that, a few years after, I decided to launch SISTA Fund, which is a 100 million target VC fund that just got a very significant funding by the EIF. And it's going great. It was very difficult, but it's going great.
Thanks a lot, Tatiana. Gesa, you are co-founder of Auxxo Female Catalyst Fund, and also co-founder of the Evangelistas. You are a champion in gender diversity within the European landscape. Can you also say a brief word about your background and maybe share some pivotal moments that gave you the willingness to act and to be a great actor of gender equity?
Okay, so this is... Hello, thank you for having me. It's a very personal story, and I guess it starts with my father, who was a very misogynist man, and he taught me that women are here to please. Women are here to keep the backs of men free so that they can rule the world. Take care of the children, etc. And at the same time, the same man was also my father and wanted a lot and very good things for me. So he wanted me to be a bank director when I grew up. And my whole life, I was really struggling with, okay, how do I do this? How can I live up to all of that? How can I become the bank director and at the same time, be this perfect person who's always smiling because men want me to smile and be thin and be, whatever. And fast forward, I had a career. I started in consulting. Then I went into startups, and it was a good career. Everything was perfect. But then I got really sick, so I got cancer, and that for me was the pivotal moment. So. What happened was I started looking inside of me and starting looking at, okay, I've been trying to struggle my whole life and really like stiffening up, trying to struggle to meet all those demands. What do I actually want? And what am I here for? And basically this whole journey brought me to, first of all, the purpose, I believe, why I'm here. So I have 2 daughters. And I believe I'm here to show them the power of femininity, and I don't mean in terms of against men. I mean it with men, and that was the first thing that I realized. And the second thing I realized was the biggest lever, in my opinion, is exactly what I do. So the whole economy so far hasn't been able to become diverse. Through itself, and even with quotas and etc., it hasn't really been able for women to access the very top positions in publicly listed companies, for example. And I thought about it with my partners who I was co-investing as angels back in the day about that, and we thought, look, if we create a VC fund, and this VC fund co-invests with these male great investors, and we co-invest into teams that are very diverse, with at least one female founder, that might actually solve the problem. Because if we do that, then we can make these women create publicly listed companies, and have like an ecosystem at the side that then kind of like a Trojan horse infiltrates the economy, and at the end it's like the PayPal mafia. We're everywhere, and no one really realized how we did it. So that's what I'm trying to build with Auxxo.
Wow, thank you very much for sharing that with us. Magdalena, you are also a famous person into the gender equity world, and quite known also for your involvement with European Women in VC. You are now managing partner at Digital Ocean Venture. Can you also introduce yourself and tell us about your background?
Okay, so my story about investing in women, it's not so so beautiful because we are like normal VC. However, we think that I think also that when we have women on board as a managing partner, like women in general will be more happy to apply to us and discuss with us and be not only one female on the meeting. So that's the idea. Like my background, my education wasn't like strict for the venture capital industry because it was journalism, but like I was 23 when I knew that I want to work in venture capital industry, and that way to venture capital industry was very tough because usually men partners, they want to hire people who are similar to them, so have similar education, similar views, and they agree in everything. However, it was like possible. What can I say? Like as you Gesa shared your personal story, I also had like very hard health issues. Because I worked a lot. I think that I devoted like my vacation, free time, weekends to do another deal, and another deal in CVC, in which I worked. I think that during 15 months with a team of 2 people, we have done 7 deals. So full deals, like with full due diligence, and it was like startups and founder of founds, and then the corporation treated me like really well, really bad. I had health issues, and then one day I decided that okay, so like the price for the venture working in venture capital industry is high because you are overworked, sometimes frustrated, etc. So because if I want to pay this price, I want to pay this price and have benefits as a partner, not as an employee for the like usual salary, because the expectations, if you are senior manager in found and you have like basic salary without carry, are very similar to the partner responsibility. So that was my personal motivation why I wanted to build my own fund.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's address the elephant in the room. Within the VC environment, most of the VCs struggle to invest in female-founded companies and struggle in hiring female employees. I think that it's interesting to address the why. Maybe just before addressing the why, as you have a lot of data, Tatiana, maybe you can share with us the evolution you've seen on this landscape since the beginning of SISTA and the beginning of the data you gathered.
Of course. It's a complicated question because everybody kind of really insists on the fact that you don't have enough female founders, and that's of course why there's so little going to female-led startups. And I have a hard time with this argument because I don't know who said that when you're not looking, you find excuses, and when you look, you find women. So I really believe that. I mean, we received 2,000 decks since we launched, and I think that you guys are receiving even more every week. So there's like a fantasy around the fact that, and a huge excuse around the fact that there's not enough female-founded companies. We so receive per year 2,000 decks. We invest in maybe 6-10 startups per year. Our first company, that's called the Exploration Company. It's an amazing space tech company that just raised, it was our first deal at SISTA Fund. And
Our biggest anti-portfolio. We're so sad.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I really didn't know. So yeah, Hélène Huby is a Franco-German founder, and she just raised 150 million. And the companies that we're following are doing very well. So I'm every day more convinced that there's the, I mean, of course, there's the startups, and that the potential is huge. I think that it also, of course, depends on the brand. As you say, Magda, of course, that when you have a very strong brand around female-led, and being SISTA, we receive, of course, much more decks. But I also think that the few funds that had a real politics around having more women did so. So in 2019, we signed with SISTA a pledge that where the idea was that more than 300 VC funds pledged to back at least 25% of companies with at least one female co-founder. And I think that the top 10 funds that kind of really went into the initiative passed from maybe 6% to 20% of women that have been backed. I'm thinking about Elaya Partners, who's one of our allies. So again, when you're putting in place the right metrics and the right message, the women come, and it's the same. You talked about founders, but also women as investors. So I started my VC fund 2 years ago, and again, I've been meeting a number absurd amount of women that are more competent. So I think again, they're out there, and they're getting laid off because we're of course experiencing some kind of backlash. So so of course they're there, and I think more and more available also. So it's maybe a good time to go get female investors on your team.
Okay. And if we go back on the why, what you said is first is encouraging. Is that when you search, you find, and then you
don't search. It's sure you're not going to get there. It's basics.
So this is encouraging. What you're saying also, which is encouraging, is that figures are better. The trend is probably not quick enough, but the trend is good. So this is encouraging. I don't know if you see the same trend in Germany than Tatiana experimented in France, and I wanted to go back on the why. Why is it so hard, so long, and so painful to change the angle of the curve? You know.
I want to start off with one thing. When we started this panel, you said something. You mentioned the title, but you said instead of difficult, hostile, and I really want to talk about that because I don't agree with that, and why don't I agree with it? Why don't I agree with this? When I started as an angel investor with 2 other women investing into startups, we did not have a gender focus. We were looking at non-typical VC cases mostly, but also typical VC cases. At the end, 70% of our startups had at least one female founder. That for me was a big aha moment, because what I realized was that's what's happening in the whole economy, in the whole VC scene. And it's not hostility, it's similarity bias. And the similarity bias is something that we all have, and it's very human to have this. And this whole industry, it's all about trust. And of course you will trust someone more that's more alike to you, and gender is a very big factor to that. I mean, I was yesterday in a conference, it was only women. It was so easy there for me. It was I feel safe. I really feel safe with women, and that's not always the case if there's many men in the room. And so it's not hostility, that's the one thing. And why do we struggle? Because you have to go against your human nature. And to me, I'm doing something, I'm using my human nature with my job. I'm lucky enough that I can do that because the industry is as it is. But look at from the direction of men, it's quite the contrary. They have to go against their human nature, and everyone is asking them to do so right now, and quite rightfully so, because they're leaving really great opportunities on the table, and our economy could be thriving a lot more than it is today. But to me, that's the issue. The issue is the similarity bias. So what's happening right now, and I see it in Germany, is just so many people are talking about diversity and how important it is. Some LPs, like the EIF, are putting an intentional effort to increase diversity, and I think this is so important. I think the public discussion is really important. I think the male allies are super important. I would encourage them to be outspoken as possible, as much as possible, because that really helps the cause. And I am really afraid of what's going to happen these next months or years. If I look to the US and I see, the election of Trump, and I see what's happening also with the private investors, things are moving away from diversity, is my impression. And so we actually changed our pitch deck last week, because we noticed, okay, people are not buying into this, invest in female founders, which I think is great, but they're not buying into it. So what we did, we just changed the wording around, saying we invest into overlooked founders. And by the way, we do it really well. So our first vehicle is at 3x DPI. And do the thing that men would do, like a little bit, exaggerate a little bit more, because we would... women go down typically, not always, but we would be more humble, a lot more humble than we should. And men are quite the contrary. So they're a lot more, it's just, the opposite, basically. And we said, okay, why don't we change it around? And if diversity is not something that people are looking at right now, then let's try to go that way. And I think that's what people should now in future think about. Like, how do I pitch myself? How do female founders pitch themselves? We coach them a lot and tell them, look, if you don't exaggerate, your deck will be overlooked right away, because everyone exaggerates in this industry. If you are realistic, I wish the industry were not the way it is, and I wish we could be realistic, but the facts are that's not the case. So let's play the rules of the game today and infiltrate it, and then at a certain point we can be honest again. Yeah.
And you mentioned the importance of having male allies. I will ask this question to you, Magdalena, as you have 3 male co-founders. So how do you manage them?
It's a very good question, and I have to say, and I have to admit that we teamed because we are very different. And sometimes, that there are 3 phases of creating the team, and one of is storming. So we have constant storming because, we are totally different people with different background, different personality. So I agree, it's hard to be a team, to have a fund with people who are completely different than you. And then I have to admit that 1 year ago I took classes in Harvard Business School about negotiation, and it's the best course I could have because we have a lot of negotiations. But to be honest, these 3 guys, they were the reason why I decided to create a fund, because I know what I feel comfortable and very self-aware about what I know and what I don't know, and I found the rest of the team which is complement to my knowledge and my experience. So that was okay, and I have to say that it's normal that I work as only one woman in the men team. It was almost always like this, and with this team it's different because I am a partner and we are all equal partners, so there is no better partner, or I am not in the situation that I am manager, because men, they usually don't care. They are not hostile, they just don't care. They are themselves and they don't see that they do something in proper way, or their jokes are not so good. in that moment. And they don't see it. And because we are equal partners and we are honest with each other, we had a lot of open conversation about this, about all these issues, and they know about these issues. And for example, when we have meetings with investors, and it's always like, hi guys, like for men, and they are no, we are guys and Magda. So there's no men's club because like all our investors are male, and they are aware of all small even things which are improper. And because they know each other better than I know them, because they cooperate together like since a few years, they point each other that, you know, like you did this wrong, and I even don't have to say that this joke was not right or correct, because they know each other and they tell each other that it was not fine. So that's not an issue, and I think that what's the good advice? So it's honest conversation about the situation, and it works in our case, and also like equal partnerships, because very often, as I see women as a partner, she's like the smallest percentage in the carry and in the GP. So no, we said that if we want to do it, like one woman is equal partner to all other male partners.
I like your testimonial because we are already talking about solutions, so we are already action-oriented. And all of you, the three of you, took part of concrete initiative, either SISTA, the Evangelistas, European Women in VC, that are acting concretely towards more gender equity. My question is for you, Gesa, to start. What role should play each stakeholders to have a systemic change? Because we are, as a VC, we are a small part of the value chain, you know. We work with LPs, we work with politics and government, we work with entrepreneurs. So what do you think each of those stakeholders, which part of the action they should take to get this systemic change?
I could speak for days about this, I guess, but to keep it short, the first one you mentioned were governments. I think we should start early and give women early access to financial education, mint, etc., and give them role models. I guess that's for me a really important thing, for me personally, because I grew up in South America, and the only working women I saw were household help, teachers, and charity ladies. Full stop. And I think the more you see them, the more it's attainable to you, and the more that's what I wish for my daughters, for them to say, if I want to become the CEO of a publicly listed company, I can do it.
Or a bank director.
Or a bank director, yes. So that's government. Then and if you're looking at the like EIF, etc., I guess if I were the government, and in Germany we had a big problem with the half-state funds, I would really make sure that on GP level there were enough women, because you as a state have the responsibility to, you know, have gender equality in your funds. To me, that's like a really, really important step that I don't think all countries have implemented yet. Other VCs, in my opinion, they should really make sure that they hire women on senior levels again, because there's also studies that show that because we see a lot of change right now on the lower levels. So VCs are really improving on getting women on the lower levels. The problem with that is there's a study that shows that if you grow in this ecosystem and you learn from these male GPs, you start learning the lens of the male GPs. So the way you invest will be very male, and it will obviously have the same lens as the men that showed you how to look at it. So I guess how they could change is that they bring on the top levels, GP level, women, and I guess with the really big funds, it's not enough to bring a woman in, because she will be alone and she will be. It's a tough job, like at least two to somehow balance it. I think founders also have a responsibility. Like if I look at my cap table, I need to make sure that it's diverse. That's I have to put a point on it, and also look for women, find women for my cap table. Those were the ones you mentioned, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Thank you very much, Tatiana. Do you have something?
No, but it's true that founders, I think, have a very, very important role to play, and I thought for a long time that they could play a even more important role than public policy, because so in venture, the good entrepreneurs get funded and the great entrepreneurs choose their investors. And that's very important because it's kind of this unique asset where you're able to kind of, pick who you want to work with. I think that, so typically on my last round when I used to be an entrepreneur, I said no to a lot of VC funds that had not even one female partner. And it's true that that's a question that we always ask on entrepreneur, like, what's your ideal cap table? And I really believe that we have a new generation of entrepreneurs that really believe in the cap table as a tool to kind of market also their company and set the standards for the 10 next years. So I had a lot of even public company calling me saying that, of course, it was kind of too late because they hadn't thought about gender at the very beginning. They were 2,070% men, and it was very, very hard to shift it, and it's true. Studies show that after 100 employees, it's very hard to kind of fix the problem. And that's important also to really, say to the entrepreneurs that before 100 employees, it's the time where you can set the standards for gender equality. After, it's impossible, and the problem is that you're putting your equity at stake because a few years after, you're not going to be able to raise your Series B or your Series C or even go public because you have an organization that's absolutely not gender balanced. And that the economical kind of argument, rings a bell, because when I talk to entrepreneurs saying you're going to raise your Series B, and you still have less than 20% of a female employee and nobody on the COMEX, I mean, you're just not going to get funded. And at one point, it kind of rings a bell, of course. So I think that typically we come from a generation that kind of started the entrepreneurial journey in maybe 2010 or something. And I think that those serial entrepreneurs today are saying very loudly, and that's the case also at SISTA Fund, we get chosen a lot because they want us at the cap table, also as a statement. And there's companies like Conto, that's a very unicorn, a French unicorn bank and online bank. And typically they have a very interesting cap table. If you look at the cap table, they have Gaze Angel, which is a US organization, and they have a lot of female kind of led private VC in order to also set the standards. So the role of the role of the founders, I think, is very, very important. And I spend a lot of time trying to tell them that they have the power today to have the cap table that they want to have in order to have the company that also they resembles them.
So if I summarize what you both said is no compromise. As a LP, you say no to the GP that have no women within the team. And as a founder, you also don't do any compromise and you say no to an investor that have no women around the table.
So you say no when you can say no, of course.
Of course.
But, I mean, there's a reality is that, you get to that point where you can choose, and there's not everybody can choose. I'm just saying that there's role models that are able to set the standards, but some of them, and I was one of them for a very long time. I just needed money, and I took the money and ran. And at one point, you also just have to get funded and move forward to make changes. So
I would also not agree with how you said it, because as an LP not investing in a fund that has no women, I don't quite agree with that. I would say I would look at the details. I would look at how are they investing, how much percentage female founders do they have in their portfolio? Do they if they have a quota? It's still, I would still find it totally okay for an LP to invest into that. And also as a founder, to me, it's not about an all-male VC fund that I don't let in. Quite the contrary, I will let that fund in. But on the other hand, maybe bring an all-female VC fund in as well. So it's about balance. For me, it's like the whole thing is about diversity, and diversity has many levels, and it has many faces, and so I wouldn't be as harsh as you just
you're
mentioned.
Right, you're right that it was a shortcut. And what was interesting during the masterclass this morning is that EIF said that they were now implementing the diversity in their due diligence, and they were looking for some quantitative result, but also qualitative result in terms of mindset, intention, and effort putting on changing things. So it's definitely what you're saying. I see time is running, and I would like to keep some time for the Q&A. But maybe Magda, if you could give some advice to women wanting to have a career, a VC career. What advice would you give to them to have a successful VC career?
Okay, so like VC, if you want to, for example, work in the, credit risk, it's very, you know what to do, what to learn, etc. In venture capital, the difficult in starting the career is that you need a lot of very different skills. So I would advise to find a male or female mentor and learn what is necessary in the venture capital industry, and find your superpower, because you will be not one person will be not master in Excel, in investment agreements, in engineering, in market analysis, and in testing founders. So no way, no chance. But if you find like one or two superpowers which are also fun for you, because I can imagine that for me, for example, reading investment agreements or creating, it's super fun and I really like it. So yeah, why not? So find your superpower and use it and do it and create the plan how to be a master in this area. And it's really important. So maybe you have like coaching skills, or you like to do it, because there will be a lot of work with founders. So find one or two things which you love and you do, and do it like the best what you can. So that's the first advice. Second advice is what we heard in the morning. Find allies and build network from the very beginning, but because it's very, very useful, and not only in the industry. Also, sometimes you need just friends to spend time after the transaction. So find hobby, but also find people who will guide you in the very tough situation, because like VCs, each day is something difficult to or some puzzle to do. So yeah, I will go this way.
So partying is the advice. I love this advice. Partying.
Not only partying. for example,
Support.
Yeah, but support. Yeah.
No, of course, you're very right. It's true that being a founder and being also a GP is a very unique experience, and you of course feel very lonely. So I think that having support from other funds that are doing the same is very important. And just as a text sometimes or email saying congrats on this milestone is also something great. So I believe also we're going to build little by little also networks to try and kind of support each other.
So maybe one of the best things which happened to me, I've met in the, I think, summer or in June, very good coach. And when we negotiate the investment agreement with our public investor, it was really hard process. And sometimes I just, referred her that we are in that stage. Like it's, we have so many hours of negotiations and tomorrow we will sign a deal. Do you understand my emotions? And she replied, okay, it's not emotions, it's chemistry. Like you have in your brain this and this substantiation. So you are not stressed. You are just, overdose chemistry. And it is sometimes so useful to have that kind of friends in this weird and hard job that it's very useful.
Do you have one more takeaway you would like to share with the audience or to the women having a VC career?
Networking is my number one thing. And the second thing is life brings things to you, and you can't influence most of that. So in my opinion, the only thing that you really can influence is doing what you love. And that would be my message. Make sure that you do what you love and you love what you do.
Thank you very much. We have 5 minutes for Q&A. Do you have a question within the audience? Yeah.
Hi, thank you. I think that, okay, now. Thank you for the panel, share your experience. I think that if we want to create an environment more female friendly, we need more LPs with gender lens. Because if I am man GP and I feel more comfortable for the assimility bias, working with men, investing in men, and my investors are men, then why I have to change? I think that we need more LPs like the European Investment Fund with this gender lens. And I think that it will be more easy if we have more female LPs with this lens. What we could do to have more women investing in the venture capital world, not as GPs, as LPs. We need more LPs, women investing in venture capital and private equity. And if we could achieve this, then these females that have this gender lens could make that the GPs have the efforts to include more women in the teams, invest more in women, and so on.
I agree 100% with this, and I think the solution is get more capital in the hand of women, because
exactly,
and that's again what I'm trying to do. But I guess another thing how that could be changed is there in Germany at least. So we're BaFin regulated, and the minimum check size is 200,000 to invest into our fund. Actually, in our first fund, we had 50% women investing in our fund, but you cannot imagine how difficult that was for us. And these women, for the first time in their life, they invested into venture capital, and we now have a problem with our second fund, because they don't have 200,000 to invest in venture capital. So most of our people from Fund 1 cannot reinvest into Fund 2. And that's another thing which I would really love if that threshold would come down.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It was really inspiring. I have one question for each of you, and it's very sweet and simple. How do you bring empowering equity to the next level? what do you want to see next year that you haven't seen so far? One, each of you. Can we ask you this?
Oh my God, it's Christmas. I get to say whatever I want. It's a very good question, but I mean, I guess that in France you have 25 billion that are invested every year in venture. Today we are one French European fund that has a focus on investing in women-led but also gender-balanced teams. So I guess that we raise maybe 70. There's 25 billion, so I guess maybe a little bit more money going to female-led companies. And just to, so we have, our criteria is 30%. We invest in companies where 30% of the cap table belongs to one or women. We're not only focused on women-led startups. The idea is to have 30% because it's as, I mean, when you have less than 30%, you don't have the community that expresses itself. You express on your own name. So I will express on Tatiana and not as a woman. And when you have 30%, you have the community that has a voice. So our share is 30%. To answer your question, much more money to diversity and gender-lensed startups.
If you're talking about this conference itself, I would, yeah, you know what? I would love to include like the really big European funds that don't have female GPs. I would love them to sit here and to listen. I think it would be great also to mingle, to get the experience, to talk with, also to get in front of potential other female GPs, because they're all, you know, they say they want to get more diverse, but sometimes it's good to show them that it's possible.
The ones under due diligence, the ones that have received EIF funding, or the ones
who have EIF funding. Yeah, there you have many big funds that don't have female GPs, and yeah, make them come.
Yeah, because
Invite them.
Make them.
Why? I mean, sorry, but no. But seriously, it's just that it's true that we're having a conversation and we're all like convinced. So I mean, it's great to
preaching to the choir,
we're pitching to our early adopters. So it's.
I can say that inviting men on that kind of conference is very, very fruitful, because I have to correct. I am not involved in the European Women in VC, but I organized 6 years ago one conference. It was more than 100 women and maybe 3 men. And one of these men, which I first time met there, is now my co-founder, because, yeah. So it's good opportunity to meet interesting people. And what I would like to say that from my perspective, it will be also very personal, but I promise myself that I will put as much effort as possible to assess the female-founded startup or co-founded, which is in my deal flow. Because for me, it is easy to give up because it's HR tech. HR tech is not my cup of tea. So it would be so easy to say, oh, no, it's not for me, it's not for us. And then let it go and pick another startup to evaluate. So I promise myself, and I really do it, that each startup in our deal flow is co-founded by female. I spent a lot of time to have the proper decision, but to also give like the good feedback. If not, why? And it's honest feedback.
Thank you very much, the 3 of you.